Okay. So the next one is null pointer exception demo. So null pointer exception means if any variable value has a null and you're doing that variable operation like calling the methods variables with that reference variable, then you will get a null pointer exception. Suppose I declared a variable string variable. So I didn't give a value here, but on this variable, if you try to do operations, okay, so another variable I create, this one equal to selenium. So now if I try to join on this variable, I try to call methods, string methods. So maybe first I'll call concatenation method, string s2 equal to s dot. See that null variable I'm calling the methods. Okay, so this we have to make it a static. S dot concat method. So concat method, what it does, it joins the two strings. So this is one, but this is not allowed. Why? The s value has a null value. If null value is there, and on that null variable, if you try to call any methods or variables, and it will throw null pointer exception on this line. So let's see. I'll try to print this. S2 value is plus S2, and still you can do a lot of operations. So string length of S1. So S1 length I can find it is easy because it's not null. So this is a value is there. That's why you won't get any problem here. The next other methods I'll write. Other statements. Few more statements I'll write. Strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. So that means you cannot modify the string value. String is a group of characters. A lot of statements I am writing, so you can see that string is available under java.lang tag, right? So execute now. You will see null pointer exception. See which line? How to debug this? You got an exception. How to debug? See that your class name, method name, and line number 11. So this is where you got a null pointer exception. So I will add these two lines in the try catch block. So that's what, right? Which line is throwing an exception, that you need to throw, that you need to declare with the try catch block, surround with try catch block. That automatically it will add these two lines added in the try catch block. I'll put a direct null pointer exception. See that null pointer exception, then mention null pointer exception NPE. So I can write here NPE dot print stack trace, and so what are the statements you want, you can write here. Catch block starts here, and so you want to find out the message. Exception message is exception message, and there is a method, right? NPE dot get message. So get cause is there, get message also there. So whichever you want, you can use. And still you want a finally block, you can use finally block also. So this code always gets executed. Finally block starts here. This code gets executed always. This is the statements. See now, before handling this exception handling try catch blocks, this code was not executing. Now see, this code also will execute now because we added the try catch blocks. So that's the advantage with the try catch block. So even the exception occurs. See, the exception occurred, but still your rest of the code will execute. Rest of the code will execute. So that's the advantage with the try catch block. Okay. So even object also, you can make object as an null, but you didn't pass it properly. That time also you will get the exception. Suppose you see this, I'll write one more method, string length. I'll find out a string length, executing the s length, s start length, right? So this is the length I want to find out, string s length. Now call this method, okay? Call this method. Again, one more time, you will get a null pointer exception here. Why? So still this value, or suppose if I use this, maybe this value is still null, right? And you will get a null pointer exception. One more time you will get, see that? One more time you got a null pointer. Because this value is null. This variable has a null value. And the null variable, if you try to do some operations, you will get a null pointer exception. So this 10th line you are getting. First see where you got in the main method you got. Then directly go to the method. So 10th line you are getting. This is the 10th line. So how can you solve this? So provide the value in the main method. You give value. So then the issue will be resolved. So variable value should not be a null. Initially you can declare null, but later you pass value properly. If you're not passing, you'll get a null pointer exception. Now see that all are perfect. See that? Java Selenium. Finally, and length also you got it 4 characters. So that's this null pointer exception. Wherever you see null pointer exception, the meaning of that is the variable has a null value. So try to solve that null value. Any questions before going to the next? Number format exception. So number format exception. So number format exception means what? You are trying to convert wrong formatting. Wrong formatting if you try to do, you will get a number format exception. So number format exception is, you can see, I'll declare a variable value. Maybe you can declare a variable value here itself. String s equal to Java. So now I am trying to convert this s into integer. Convert the string into int primitive data type. How can you do? The formula is int I equal to integer wrapper class dot parseInt. ParseInt static method you have to call, and a string variable you have to pass. So this is the formula. So right, this formula we have to use. Now, so string value has a alphabets. If alphabets is there, you cannot convert into integer. So that will throw an error. So you now see this I value. Primitive I value is plus I. And so I can do a lot of stuff. Int I equal to int result equal to I plus 50. I plus 50 result is. So you can just do that result. But if it is converted to properly, and the I value will participate here, then there's some will happen. Suppose if you do string s1 equal to s plus I, now what will happen? This is a string, the integer number or whatever is there, and the I value will participate. So s1 value is plus s1. So like this, you can run this, you will get a number format exception here. See, number format exception for input string Java. Java you cannot convert because it's alphabets. Suppose here, if we have a number, so now 250 in the string format, that you can convert into integer. See that? Now, so we can add, suppose you can add these things to number format exception. First surround with a try catch block. Surround with a try catch block. Number format exception. So catch block starts here. So I value you have to initialize. If you want to use that, you have to initialize. If you're not initializing local variable value, you cannot use. So that's a process. And you can see here, I just added this line is throwing exception for me, right? Only that line I put in the try block. The catch block number format exception. So now execute, the rest of the code will execute for you. Exactly. Now here there is no exception will occur. See, primitive I value is 250. So I plus 50 result is 300. And 50 value as S1 value is 250 plus and 250. So 250, 250. It didn't sum up here. So it's not summing up. 250 in string format, this plus operator acts as a joining operator, and the I value also 250. The number is going to be joined with 250 string. So that's this number format exception, how you can solve. The string variable numbers are there, then you can convert into integer. No issues will occur. But if there is alphabets are there, you cannot convert. Okay, that's the one thing. And let me show you one try block and multi-catch blocks. So multi-catch block, single try, multi-catch block, single try, multi-catch blocks. So single try, multi-catch blocks we're going to use now. Here, so I'm declaring my array. So integer array I'm declaring. So array equal to new int 5 elements I want to keep. So first element I'm inserting. Insert, how to insert? Array of 0, so equal to 25 by 0. So one thing. Array of 1 equal to 15. So array of 2, 20. So array of 3, 35. So array of 4, 45. So array of 5. So like this I inserted all the elements. Now I'll try to find the length of this array. Length of the array is, so dot length property you call it. Non-static variable you call it. So if you want still last element index, last element index is, then you can say, and array dot length -1. Okay, so this is the bigger expression that we have to keep in the bracket. Compound expression, right? You have to keep in the some bracket. Now see that I'm going to print these values for each loop values. So data type array variable colon array name. So you can print the array value A. I just printed it. So that's it. This is the code we want to execute. Let's execute this. What will happen is see arithmetic exception first. So this one arithmetic exception is throwing here. Okay, and so which line? Line number 9. So this is throwing an arithmetic exception. So what I can do, I'll add a single try block, multi-catch blocks. Try, multi-catch blocks. It's already added. See that? I want to first add arithmetic exception. This is the first one, AE. So, and I can write this is the arithmetic. See, once we add this try-catch block, then rest of the code start executing. Before rest of the code is not executing. I don't know whether you are observing these points or not. So if you add the try catch block, then rest of the code is executing, even the exception occurs also. The next catch block is array index out of bounds exception, because I am entering more than the size. That's why you'll get array index out of bounds exception. So array index out of bounds exception. So AX, so this one, and you can say this is array index out of bounds exception catch block. Here also we'll write a catch block so that we can understand. And here I'll write one more exception message. So arithmetic exception message is, and AE dot get message, and AX dot print stack trace, and then you can print the message also. So AX get message is AX dot get message. So this is how you can see, but last one should be one catch block one try block multi catch blocks. So the generic exception class must be there. If these two exceptions are not occurring, the other exception has to catch, right? That's why this last root class name you have to use. Root class of exception class is the exception, and on top of that global class also there. Any one you can use. And exception catch block. So E dot print stack trace, and you can write a message also if you want. It's the one try multiple catch blocks, one try multi-catch blocks, and exception message is so e dot get message. You can use get message or get cause also. You can use any one is fine. This is say one try block multi-catch blocks. That one try multi-catch blocks. But at a time, one catch block only will execute, not all catch blocks. So each catch block purpose is different. That's a one try multi-catch blocks means that this is arithmetic exception catch block divided by 0. The message is divided by 0. But the rest of the code is executed, started executing. Can you see here? This line started executing. Array dot length 5, last element length index. So all the statements are executing. This for loop also executed. Why? You got zeros all. So the default values will be there for this array, all integer array, right? So default values, but these values are not assigned. Why? Here itself you got an exception. This line itself, you can see line number 10 itself, you got an exception here. That's why these values didn't assign any value for the array. That's why all zeros are there. Okay. Now I'll solve this problem. Okay. Now see that first problem solved. But what is the next problem? See that array index out of bounds exception 5. See why it is throwing array index out of bounds exception? So array size is 5, but you are inserting at the 6th element. Wrong index we are inserting. That's why array index out of bounds exception is throwing. Clear? So the array index message is 5. 5 elements only you have to keep, but you are putting 6th element. That's the reason this is throwing. And remaining code will execute because all the elements are inserted. These elements are inserted. That's why those elements are printing. So first issue is solved because we changed 0 to 5. So no arithmetic exception. So this catch block is ignored. Now this catch block is calling because of this size more than the size you are trying to insert. Wrong index. That's why array index out of bounds exception is thrown now. See that catch block is called. So this is the code is executed. This code executed. So array index out of bounds exception code is executed. That's what every time one catch block will only called, not all catch blocks. So even though if you have multiple catch blocks, but at a time one catch block will execute. Okay, so that's all about exceptions. And the last one is throw and throws keywords. So throw keyword, you can throw your custom message. Throw and throws keywords. And throws keyword you want to declare. So I don't want to use this try catch blocks because it is increasing my program length. Instead of that, what you can do, you can use a throws keyword. You can declare on the method signature line like this. Suppose so private static. So I have given one example in our blog. You practice that. I'll give you a different program here. So validate the person is able to eligible to vote or not. I'll validate. So let's see this. If age is less than 18, I want to throw a message. How can you throw a message? I want to say, okay, he is not eligible to vote. So with the throw keyword you can do throw new arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. You write your custom message. Not eligible to vote. This is my custom message. Right? This is my custom message. Else. So I'll just put thread.sleep. Some thread.sleep. The thread.sleep, if I put 3 seconds, I'll put. It will wait some more time. Then I want to say he is eligible to vote. If his age is greater than 18 means he is eligible to vote, right? Eligible to vote. But here it is throwing error. Can you see here? thread dot sleep. Unhandled exception type. Interrupted exception is throwing. Either you can add throws declaration or surround with a try catch block. See, if you use a surround with a try catch block, see it becomes very big. Only thread dot sleep, it becomes very big. Else block inside again try catch block. It's becoming very big. So for that, instead of that, what I'm going to do, I'll just add a throws declaration. Add throws declaration, where it will add in the method signature line, that same exception will be added. Then your program will continue. So where it is occurring, in the compile time itself, the exception is occurring. The compile time itself, the error is showing for you, and the programmer is alert on that issue, and you add a throws declaration. See, throw keyword you're using inside the method body, but throws keyword you're using in the method signature line, and the exception class name you add. So this is the exception class name we added instead of try catch block. See that here again another try catch block we don't need to write, just declare with the throws keyword and then the exception class name you write. So wherever you are calling this method, there also it will force you to add this throws declaration. See, I'm going to call here. If I give 15, see that it is throwing error here. One more time it is asking, forcing to you to add throws declaration. So I can add throws declaration. Right? I can add a root class. So this is the child class. I can add a root class, but you can add same class or you can add root class of this interrupted exception. The interrupted exception root class is exception class, or you can add same interrupted exception. Suppose I want to add same interrupted exception. So one more time mouse over there, add throws declaration. It will ask you add interrupted exception. Same exception you can add or root exception you can add. It's up to you which one you add. See, throws is followed by class name and throw is followed by an object. This is an object. And throws will add in the method signature line, but throw is used within the method. So these are the practical differences I'm showing you here itself. You can add multiple exceptions here. So multiple exception classes you can add. One more you want, you can add. That's advantage here. Okay, that's a throws keyword means. Throws keyword is you are declaring. So see, not eligible to vote, but generally arithmetic exception default value is divided by 0, right? We are overriding that message with our message with the throw keyword. So we are overriding that message divided by 0. We are overriding and our message is printing. That means your custom message you are able to print with the throw keyword. That's a throw keyword. And throws keyword is you are declaring in the compile time itself. Compile time you got an error on this line, you declared, then what will happen, and the propagation will go to next line. That means the cursor will move it to next line, otherwise the compile time error will come here. That you handled with throws keyword. You are declaring, okay, you are getting this exception, declare it with the throws keyword instead of try catch block. Simple, and your code also looks clean and not lengthy with the throws keyword. That's the throws keyword means. So I'll change this to some other. Now see, the code is executing, still in the 3 seconds it is waiting. Then eligible to vote will print and program execution is done. So that means this is waiting, thread.sleep is going to wait 3 seconds. Then next statement will export. So that's the thread.sleep. Thread is a class in multi-threading. That static method is a sleep method. You can mention milliseconds here. 3000 milliseconds means 3 seconds. So that thread will stop and wait 3 seconds. After completing 3 seconds, then it will go to next line. That's a thread.sleep means. Any questions? So that's all about exception handling. Still any questions? Let me know. So now next topic is Jdbc. So Jdbc is a Java API which is used to connect and execute your SQL queries with the database. How you can connect with the Java code to the database. That's what this JDBC is going to explain. But JDBC API is very useful API. Before, people were using ODBC API that was designed in the C++. That's a platform dependent. C++ language is a platform dependent. If you change the programming, the database, you have to change your code, and also security issues. So that's why JDBC is a platform independent, right? Java is a platform independent, so that you can use a JDBC API. JDBC means Java Database Connectivity. That's a JDBC. So this is the API which connects between two layers. One is Java layer, another one is your database layer. In between that, this JDBC API is an interface. It acts as a bridge between the two layers. It will connect the both of them, and the data will be transferred from the database to your program console. That's a JDBC means. So JDBC is, there are many types are there. So the JDBC means, so Java API which is connect and execute query with the database. And JDBC API uses JDBC drivers to connect with the database. Why you need to use a JDBC? So I told you just now, before JDBC, ODBC API was the database API to connect and execute your SQL queries with the database. And from Java code itself, you can execute your SQL queries. So that's this JDBC API is doing now. But ODBC API uses ODBC driver, which is written in C language. C language is a platform dependent and unsecured. That is the reason Java has defined its own API, JDBC API, that uses a JDBC drivers. Written in Java language, Java is a platform independent, and any database you can connect with this JDBC API. That's advantage. So what is an API? So API means application programming interface, so which contains a lot of features of a product, and they will write a lot of interfaces which has a methods. Basically, they will write the methods. Developers will write the methods. That methods will go and communicate with the two different layers, and data will exchange there and get it back to you. So that's what happening here in the JDBC API also. So Java is a different programming language, and database is different. So you are sending the queries to database and processing there and fetching the data for you. So that's what API is going to do. And so APIs are very famous nowadays in the market, and we'll discuss that after Selenium. So what are the different types of drivers we have? So I told you, right, there are drivers we are using. JDBC drivers we are using between the database and Java code. That JDBC drivers, there are many types are there. JDBC ODBC bridge driver, native API driver, network protocol driver, thin driver, and this is the fully developed by Java. And this driver we are going to use. And to connect to the database, there are steps. There are 4 steps. First step is load the driver. You need to load the driver between the database, right? So between the database and your Java code, it will act as a bridge. So this JDBC driver, and here is your Java code. Okay, so this Java code, this is all the Java code. So this is the driver. So JDBC drivers. So what it does, it will connect. This is a database, and this database will connect. First data will be moved to API. So the API will send that to database. Then you will get back the data. So this will act as a bridge. This driver will act as a bridge between the database and your Java code. And the data will send to the database and fetch the data. So that's the first, you have to load this driver between these 2 layers. Okay, so that is the first step, load the driver. For loading the driver, you are going to use a class dot for name method. So I'm giving just a driver type. There are, every database has its own driver type. So that driver type is, for Oracle database, is oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. This is the driver for Oracle database. If you are using Oracle database, and this is the driver type you need to write here. So the code is same for any database, the code is fixed, but database driver will change from database to database. That's the first step. You have to load the driver. Second step, once the driver is loaded here, now connect to the database. How to connect to the database? You have to use a connection interface con equal to driver manager class dot get connection method you have to call. So get connection method you have to give 3 parameters. One is URL, description URL, your database descriptor URL, username and password you have to pass. So this URL will be like this: string URL equal to jdbc colon oracle colon thin colon. If your database is installed on the local host, the same host, so you can write a local host. For us, suppose that database is installed in some other machine, that machine IP address you pass it here, okay, in this area. Then, so every database is going to run on one port. So Oracle default port is 1521, and the SID is the system identification number. That's a ORCL is the default name. You can change this port number and this SID name. So these are the format you have to give URL. Then username and passwords. You have to pass username. So default username is a Scott and Tiger for the Oracle database. So you can give this one. And that's the second step. Once you write this statement, the connection will be established. Now on that connection, you create a statement. So create a statement. Third step is create a statement. So statement interface, that variable equal to connection. For this connection, I'm creating a statement, and the statement will create. On this statement, you execute your SQL queries. Now fetch the results from this statement. So result set interface res equal to this statement dot execute query. So you're executing your SQL queries like this. You'll write select star from EMP. This is the table name, EMP table. And select star from EMP means in this EMP table, what are all the columns are there, all fetch and store in this res variable. That's what this query is going to do. It will connect to this database connection, and this query will execute on this database statements, and then it will fetch the data here. Then however you want, you manipulate what data you want from this res variable. All the EMP table data is available. You got the data into your Java code. So database is another layer, and you are connecting with a Jdbc API and fetching the data. So that's the one. And you can see here what are all the classes, methods and interfaces I have used for these 4 steps. So clear table format I have given here: class, method name and interface name. So class is the class you can use for first step, and method name is a for name method you have to use for first step, and interface is nothing, no interface, and driver type you are mentioning. Second step, driver manager class you have to use, and get connection method you have to use, and connection interface we are using. These are the 3 for the second step, connect to the database step, right? Second step. First step is load the driver. For loading the driver, what class we are using? Class name dot for name method you are using. For second step, connect to the database. To connect to the database, we are using a driver manager class, get connection method, and connection interface we are using. And next step, you need to create a statement. Third step is create a statement. Create a statement method we have to use, no class here, and a statement interface you can use, or prepared statement or callable statement. These are the 3 types of statements available in Jdbc API. So all this database related, which package you can find, and java.sql package you can find. Java.sql package you can find all these classes, interfaces you can find in the java.sql package. And the last step, to fetch the results, no class we are using, just execute query method, and result set interface we are using. These are the each step, what are all the classes and methods we are using. So what is the difference between statement interface, prepared statement interface, and callable statement interface? So it's a very important interview question also. So statement interface is used to execute simple SQL queries, right? To fetch the data, such kind of simple SQL queries. If you want to execute on the database, you will use a statement interface. So prepared statement is going to help you in preventing SQL injection attacks. Like the hackers will attack with SQL statements. That SQL injection attacks is handled by prepared statement because it automatically escapes the all special characters. That's a prepared statement purpose. Another advantage is prepared statement allows us to execute a dynamic SQL queries with the parameter inputs. You can give a parameters with this prepared statement. Dynamically, you can pass your parameter value to your SQL query. In the query itself, you can write a dynamic query. That's the advantage with the prepared statement. So callable statement is used to execute bigger SQL queries like stored procedures, big programs. In the Java, we are writing big programs, right? Same way in the SQL also you can write bigger programs. It is called stored procedures. That stored procedures, if you want to execute, you need to use callable statement. Above 2 is not going to help you. So this is the based on your SQL query type, use the statements. Okay, so that's the one simple example I'm giving here. See, all these are available in java.sql package, java.sql.connection interface, java.sql.driver manager class, java.sql.prepared statement, java.sql.result set, java.sql.sql exception, and properties class I'm using. So here is the simple complete program I'm giving. One simple program, public static void main throws SQL exception and string URL equal to jdbc colon oracle colon thin colon @localhost colon. So localhost means I'm assuming my database is installed on my machine. That's why I'm giving a localhost. If it is in the different host, that IP address you give, and then port number of that database and the SID of that port. Where you can get all these things in the database installation folder, you can get these details. Okay, so these details you can get in the database installation directory. So there is a folder, network folder is there. There you will get all this. And then properties class. I want to store my username password. So I'm using a properties class. I'm creating object for this class. Why I'm creating object? To call that non-static methods. To call this object to non-static methods. Props dot set property. You can set the properties key and value. This is the username, the value is cut, and props dot set property password tiger. So these are the key and value. For this method, you have to pass key and value, both are string type. Both are string type. That's why I kept in double quotes. Can you see this? So key is username and key value is a start. Password is the key, and tiger is the value for the password. So I declared my URL and username password stored in the props object. Now we'll see that. Try catch block, it is going to start. Try catch block, we are starting here. So first load the driver. So what is the first step? Loading the driver, right? In the loading the driver, what is the step you need to use? Class dot for name, oracle dot jdbc dot driver dot oracle driver. So we are using the oracle database here. Then second, create a connection to the oracle database using jdbc. Connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection method. So URL you already declared here, that parameter you use here, and the props object. Props object has a username and password that I am storing. Then SQL queries. What is your SQL query? you want to execute. Select a sys date, system date as current day from dual table. From dual is a table name, and sys date is the you want a column. Current day column, sys date will be there. That you fetch it. Select is to fetch the data from the database. Select query. Again, so SQL will plan. So in the weekends, we'll plan SQL classes, because SQL is also important. If SQL is not there, it's going to be a problem. And as a tester, you should have a little bit SQL knowledge. So after this week, manual testing is going to finish. After that, we'll start SQL queries. If you miss, this is going to be a bigger problem for you. You all join for SQLs if you don't have a knowledge on SQL, and this is a very, very important. Without this very simple topic, but they will ask questions in the interview. Okay, so next one, third step. I'm using prepared statement here. Pre-statement connection dot on this connection, prepare statement, pass this SQL query. Then fourth step, fetch the results. Result set, result equal to pre-statement dot execute query. So this query you execute, I'm saying. Then you got the data here. So I'm iterating that data while result dot next. So it will go to next step, next record. So system dot out dot println current date from Oracle is result dot get a string current day. This is the column number, column name, current day column. So it will fetch that current day value, whatever it is there. Then so completely done your program. Now see catch block, try block is ending here. Then immediately catch block is started. So you will get a SQL exception. So e dot print stack trace and finally block. See that. So I told you finally block is used to close the database connections, to close the file handlings, files. So we'll use a finally block. See, I'm closing connection dot close, result dot close. The close method you are calling on that resources, so that it won't occupy much memory. So finally block, even anything skips here also, but finally block code always going to execute. Even your connection is established. So, and it won't stay, because finally block will close them. Finally block will close them. That's the reason you have to call finally. So again, I'm using a try catch blocks here again. Try, on the try block, I kept all my code, then catch block. So if any error occurred here, the catch block will catch that. If exception is not there, and finally block will close those connections once your operations are done. Even the exception occurs, then your operations will be, your connections, results, everything will be closed properly, so that it won't occupy memory. Unnecessary memory won't create. That's the advantage with this finally block. See, same exception we have seen and we are using here. This the as it is, wherever you are using a database connection code, you must use a try catch finally block. Without that, it's not possible. Okay, try catch finally block is a mandatory for a database code. Clear? Any doubt? That's all about a database connection, how to do. So all these steps are going to ask in the interview. So please be prepared for that. These are very, very important. Okay, any queries? What are the 4 steps? Load the driver, connect to the database, create a statement, fetch the results. All these are available in the java.sql package. Class.forName and that driver type you pass. Driver type will change from database to database. Second step, connect to the database. So you have to use a connection interface con equal to driver manager class dot get connection of URL comma username comma password you have to give. That's a second step. With that step, connection will be established with the database, because you are giving the database details here. In the URL, you are mentioning the database details. So what is the database name and database port, database description, URL you are mentioning, where, which machine it is installed, everything you are mentioning in the URL. And the username password also you are authenticating. That's why it will connect to the database. Third step. So on that connection, you create a statement. So either you can use a statement interface prepared statement interface or callable statement interface. So statement st equal to connection dot create statement. The simple statement interface I have used. Statement is an interface. Connection is an interface. Please be careful. They will confuse you. They will ask you whether it is a class or interface. Don't get confused, okay? And next, last statement is fetch the results by executing the query on that statement. So result set res equal to connect statement dot execute query and write your SQL query, whichever SQL query you want to execute. That's all about JDBC and how to connect to the database and execute your SQL queries. So SQL means structured query language. It's a language to communicate with your databases. So many databases are there. So Oracle, MySQL Server, MySQL, and Microsoft SQL Server, and then so IBM database also one is there, and Postgres, HANA. So from SAP, HANA from SAP. So Oracle is from Oracle company. So like this, you have so many databases. So these databases you can use to work with your databases. Yeah. Any questions before closing? That's all for the day. And only we left with